website or other things. Today I want to highlight his achievements in the upliftment of the society as a whole, and very few knows about his contribution to several walks of life, which has changed the lifestyle and the socio-economic structure of our country. Normally when we speak of Dr. Ambedkar, two things crop up. That he fought for the rights of downtrodden, and he was the chairman, the head of the Constituent Assembly. I think crediting him with just these two things is the biggest injustice to Dr. Ambedkar's contribution, which is unknown, you don't find on either Google or any other social media platform, any websites of any organization following the footsteps of Dr. Ambedkar. Let me begin with one of the best contributions of Dr. Ambedkar. And that was, for the first time, that country recognized the right of a widow. Law recognized a right of a widow in a property ancestral of her husband, which her husband was entitled. Friends, many of you must not be knowing that pre-independence, the worst placed persons were, but the worst placed person was poor widow. Though Raja Ram Mohan Roy, with endless efforts, did away with Sati Pratha, but in actual, in reality and in life, though they were not lit to fire with their husband's body, but their life was no better. People, if they used to see the face of a widow, they used to go and pray. People, if they find widow crossing them, they would change their role. It was, widows were in such a bad shape. For the first time, in 1947, after we became independent, with relentless efforts of Dr. Ambedkar, widows started receiving 50 rupees pension from the I am really surprised by history has forgotten this. Widow pension scheme, he forced Panditji to come out with that scheme. And in those days there were 10, 12 states, all ruled by a particular political party, which was ruling the central government. It was because of his efforts that in 1947 a law came to be enacted, recognizing the right of a widow to get pension. 50 rupees in those days was a good amount of salary. Today, I don't know whether somebody would laugh at it, what is that in 50 rupees. But then, senior most councils were charging 50 rupees a matter. Some Jamshedji Kanga or Bhulabhai Desai used to charge 50 rupees a matter, or Mamad Ali Jinnah. Then came the amendment in Hindu Succession Act. And that entire amendment was drafted by Dr. Ambedkar. And we don't know this. We don't recognize this. It's a matter of faith. History has not done justice to Dr. Ambedkar. This is just to begin with. A widow will be entitled to a right in the property of her husband. Was for the first time came as a law written settled and put before the parliament by Dr. Ambedkar. So at that point of time, Dr. Ambedkar was not a member of parliament. Through government, and all credit must go to the government of that time, that it lent its ears to Dr. Ambedkar and his reforms. He led a big procession of widows in Nasik. And from there he enlightened the right of widows to receive pension and to get a right in the property. Erstwhile state of Mumbai, under the leadership of late Morarji Bhai Desai as the chief minister of that state, sat with him for hours to reform the society. And then came the act that not only widows' right, but a penal provision was enacted if such old traditions, old thoughts, and if widow is ill-treated or widow is not recognized in the family. Nobody knows this. Dr. Ambedkar, we all know, but we don't know who made Dr. Ambedkar. Maharaja of Baroda used to live in Bombay. This everybody must be. Everybody must be knowing that he sponsored Dr. Ambedkar's studies to Columbia University and spent 3,000 rupees a month in those days. But many of you must not be knowing how Dr. Ambedkar approached Maharaja. His father tried his level best to see that his son gets a chance to go to Europe. As a part of scholarship program, every year Maharaja used to send 25-30 students to United States for studies. One day, Dr. Ambedkar, as a young, very young person of 18, directly dialed to the Maharaja of Baroda at Bombay. This is how Dr. Ambedkar's life changed. The way in which he spoke, the person, not operator in those days, operators, but his PA or anybody else who posed, he was so impressed. Normally the procedure was that it used to route through 3 channels before you reach Maharaja. But the way in which Dr. Ambedkar spoke to the person who lifted the phone, he went to the room of Maharaja and said, "Sir, somebody who I don't know is, but looks like a very big person wants to talk." He didn't know that a person talking to him is an 18-year-old boy. And when Maharaja spoke to him, he was so impressed that he, just a conversation on phone, he called him to his residence at Nariman Point, had a cup of tea with him and sponsored. So who made Ambedkar is Maharaja of Baroda. I mean, points after points. If you see, yes, and Maharaja said, that young man in you, I see a future of it. Study as much as you want, spend as much as you want, but give back to the country with interest. And that's what exactly he did. Look at the degrees that he has behind his names. I don't think I will be able to count that and put it before you. Today equal pay for equal work. Just finished and came here. Last evening when I was on a research on Dr. Ambedkar, not on social media or something, I consulted many people who are well versed with Ambedkar's philosophy and ideology. I found that we have an impression that it was Ranveer Singh's case, AIR 1982 SC, that for the first time rolled the principle of equal pay for equal work. But friends, it was Article 44 in the draft constitution, which now we find 39 in the constitution. That was introduced by Dr. Ambedkar. And why? In those days, this contractual employment, temporary ad hoc was not there. But the basic difference of salary was between men and women. For doing the same work, women didn't even get half the salary. There were salaries based on caste and communities. There were salaries based on religion. This was threadbare discussed in the Constitution. And it was Dr. Ambedkar who got up to say that first and foremost, if we want to develop our country, if we want to rise to the British era, from British era to the developed countries, we must do away with this disparity of salary, more particularly between men and women. And that is how Article 39D we find in the Constitution. In fact, Dr. Ambedkar wanted this in Part 3 of the Constitution as a fundamental right. Unfortunately, there are only two provisions where Dr. Ambedkar didn't get majority of the Constitution. One being this. Only 3 people supported him: Acharya Kripalani, Sardar Patel, and Sarojini Naidu. Others have also their point that why should we put it in a fundamental right and ask a person to go to the court? Let's make it a directive principle so that if not today, tomorrow, state would proceed in getting it achieved. But that dream remained unfound. Fundamental rights also was threadbare discussed. This every article of fundamental right and fundamental right. Right from 12 is of course state, but it is Part 3 till 30, rather 32, were drafted by Dr. Ambedkar. And you know how much time it took for Dr. Ambedkar to draft it? 8 long months. But he was very sure that I will put it in such a way that it leaves no room for any debate or any controversy in future. He was the one who wanted this word socialist in the inception of the Constitution. But ultimately and fortunately, it came up by way of 42nd Amendment. He insisted, and friends, you won't believe, Sardar Patel and Ambedkar differed only on this. The rest, if you see the debates of the Constituent Assembly, Sardar Patel and Ambedkar ji went shoulder to shoulder. Somehow or how on this issue they differ. Even on Article 29 and 30 there were certain dissent. And many of you must not be knowing that Dr. Ambedkar left the Constituent Assembly. That there cannot be debate on secularism. that cannot be debated. Present day scenario may be different, maybe viewed differently is a different thing. But then Dr. Ambedkar stood the ground. And many of you must not be knowing that word secular was proposed in the original constitution by Sardar Patel and seconded by Dr. But didn't see the light of the day till 42nd Amendment. I am not at all into whether it should have been there or it should not have been there, because
अरे वो निकल जाएगा, डायरेक्ट निकल जाएगा, खींच के निकल जाएगा।
In the debate of the Constituent Assembly, the most debated articles were Article 29 and 30. There is no other article which was more discussed than Article 29 and 30. It is virtually 75% speech was by Dr. Ambedkar, a very, very strong believer of secularism. And it was his principle, appeasement to none, justice to all, which later on came to be adopted by a political party, honestly saying that we are taking it from Dr. Ambedkar's speech. Friends, today we are sitting here and arguing the matters freely against the state, against the center, against the authorities of the state, is a gift of Dr. Ambedkar. Many members of the Constituent Assembly, I said many 3 times, wanted the powers of the High Court and Supreme Court to be limited and not give such wide powers under Article 226 and Article 32. Many respected names wanted 226 and 32 to be conditional or dependent. It was again these 2 gentlemen got up, Dr. Ambedkar and Sardar Vallabhbhai Patel, and said that no, we must give powers to our court so as to see that Part 3 of the Constitution is fully implemented and nobody is met with injustice. If you don't confer powers and we trust our judges that they know the limitation and where to draw the line between the powers of the legislature, executive and the judiciary. At one stage, there was a hot debate that let's not give powers to the High Court to touch the central laws. At that time, and many, if you ask a layman, even large number of advocates, they will say that Supreme Court is the superior court than the High Court. Large number of lawyers and laymen, not to talk about, feels that Supreme Court is a superior court. It was at that stage when many members wanted High Court to be out of power to deal with central laws. Dr. Ambedkar got up to say that, read again, High Court and the Supreme Court, as per the scheme of this Constitution, is a court, they are the courts of equal jurisdiction. We confer more powers to High Courts because going to Supreme Court is not going to be easy for a commoner. To travel to Delhi in those days is going to be extremely difficult for a poor person, a poor citizen of India, and therefore At that stage, during the discussion, Dr. Ambedkar added for enforcement of fundamental rights and any other purpose, which you will not find under Article 8. It was Dr. Ambedkar who then said and explained to the members of the Constituent Assembly that High Court and Supreme Court under the scheme of our Constitution are the courts of equal jurisdiction, with added power to the Supreme Court to vary, reverse, confirm or alter the judgment of the High Court. In those days, friends, Mahatma Ji came with her, started a newspaper named Harijan. And Dr. Ambedkar, many I find these days saying that Gandhiji and Ambedkar didn't see eye to eye, which is wrong. Dr. Ambedkar himself said that there is nobody, when a controversy for the first time in 1954, 2 years before he left us, the controversy had arose for the first time that who should have been Prime Minister of India. I am not on the merits of who should have been, who should not have been. But then Dr. Ambedkar got up to say that in this country nobody should be wiser than Mahatma. It is Mahatma's decision which all of us must respectfully with neck down should follow. And I request each and every member, each and every citizen of this country not to call in question the discretion of Mahatma Gandhi. When Mahatma Gandhi started the newspaper in 1933, February 11, 1933, a newspaper called The Harijan. No, not the Harijan. Dr. Ambedkar got up to speak and he said this. Please listen to it. That will give you an idea the level of a person. That will give you an idea what this man was. He starts by saying, I cannot give a message. In a message, he starts by saying, I cannot give a message. The outcast is a byproduct of caste system. There will be outcasts as long as there are castes. Nothing can emancipate the outcasts except the destruction of caste system. Nothing can help Hindus and ensure their survival in coming struggle except the purging of Hindu state of this odious and vicious dogma. He then had realized that this caste system has to go. 1933, almost 92 years by now. And look at the language. What a sweet language he had and what strong meaning he conveys. I'll send this, you please circulate, this is very important. We live here completely detached of caste as brothers and sisters. All sitting here are either my brothers or sisters. I am not supposed to ask which caste you belong to, which religion you belong to. The moment we step out of this building, we find this. Even after Ambedkar saying this, I am shocked, friends. I am stunned. A judge, and this is written by Justice Muralidhar, 4 days back. That a judge of the Allahabad High Court retired on 27th of March. A judge, name I forget, it's an article written by Justice Muralidhar, a very big name in our profession. A second judge who was allotted that chamber cleaned it with Ganga Jal because the judge who occupied that chamber was a Dalit. And let me tell you, if we come out of this caste system, as Dr. Ambedkar in this message has said, we will be no lesser than US, we will be no lesser than any developed countries. We get divided into castes, which with lots of efforts, neither Mahatma Gandhi nor Dr. Ambedkar could do away with. This all social lines drawn on caste and religion is the first thing. If you want to pay tribute to Dr. Ambedkar, we should do away with. At St. Xavier's Noida Hall, some 10 years back, I was a chief guest on Independence Day. And a young boy got up to give a speech. Look at the secularism of our country. He said, Prime Minister is a Sikh, Defense Minister is Christian, Vice President is Muslim, and President is Hindu. I said, you add one more word, that Chief Justice of India is Parsi. Then I got up to say, my friend, never do this. These are all dishonest politicians' thought. Even a Prime Minister is Indian, Home Minister is Indian, Vice President is Indian. And friends, believe me, if somebody asks me, and this is very common, and until we cross these barriers, we will not be. If somebody meets me and says, Osaitli, I always answer, Indian. And I believe that that's a tribute to Dr. Ambedkar, who relentlessly, and I'm afraid, if he would not have passed away in 1956, right? India needed him 20 years more, at least 10 years more. 65 was not the age, but in those days, average age was 37. He would up to 65. Possibly he would have succeeded in doing away with this biggest evil of Indian society. But it is again, I am saying, great injustice to Dr. Ambedkar to say, limit his sphere of activity to constitution and fighting for the rights of the. You know who wrote Hindu Code?
Ambedkar.
Dr. Ambedkar. And he was in the transit of adopting Buddhism from Hinduism. At that stage, and this Hindu code which I started with recognized the right of the people. It was under this Hindu code that a female's right was recognized. Till this Hindu code came into existence, in life of a woman in India was the life of an animal. She was meant only to cook food and give birth to the children. She was not even able to speak with the outside male member. I am not on widow, I am of a married woman who has her husband at the helm. She could not show her face, which unfortunately today is also very, very prevalent in both the religions, not knowing what was the reason and logic behind it. It's very unfortunate that this Hindu code remained in existence for a very short period, but then the new act came by way of number of acts, Hindu Succession Act, Hindu Marriage Act, which does take care of Hindu code.
It was actually broken up and adopted.
Yes, into 4 or 5
5 laws.
legislations. But it's a brainchild of Dr. Ambedkar.
Yes.
In the state of Maharashtra, then bilingual state of Bombay, which made Ambedkar an international figure, was Mahar Satyagraha. It was almost parallel to Dandi March of Mahatma Gandhi. By a government law, Dalits and Adivasis, what in legal terms we say as scheduled caste and scheduled tribe people, were not permitted to fetch water from Chodar tank, which was the main tank. This was a project. Mahad was a big project of water, and the tank was restricted only to, then they used to call upper caste Hindus. Dr. Ambedkar marched, and that march was 160 kilometers with heavy police force deployed. He broke the barricade, he held the water, made all scheduled caste and scheduled tribe people who were accompanying him drink water, and that was the first revolution where large number of Brahmins joined Dr. Ambedkar in his crusade and movement. Today, not only that Article 16 and 15, lastly I would come to Article 15. Article 15 is the only article where preference or advantage can be given to a woman. In absence of Article 15, and that was the brainchild of Dr. Ambedkar, and the only article in the Constitution, 15 and 16, two articles, which were adopted unopposed. I think a little longer would completely dry you out. Some other day I am writing a book of contributions by Dr. Ambedkar to this nation. I have just begun. I am trying to get the inputs from all quarters. Please provide me if you know anything that can add to my knowledge. But it was a great pleasure and honor both to speak about a person. We have seen number of seminars, number of lecture series being organized about different dignitaries, and rightly so, deservedly so. And even on Dr. Ambedkar by government institutions, political parties. But as a bar association, as a body of intellectuals, this organization of this program is, according to me, is just a beginning. And let's percolate this message to all social organizations. And let's really pay our tribute to Dr. Ambedkar for his contribution to this nation. Thank you. I think my points are worth 1 hour, but I think it's 5:45. Everybody has to attend the office and meet the clients. Tomorrow is a working day. Some other day, keep an informal gathering. Thank you, friends. Thank you very much.
Thank you. May I request Vice President of our part to give the vote of thanks.